Hey, I'm back with another solo advice video. This time it's for a tune called This Christmas by, well, words and music are by Donny Hathaway and Nadine McKinner. This is a really awesome tune from the 70s. It's really funky Motown soul groove kind of tune. This particular song comes from an arrangement by John Barry, available through Hal Leonard. So I'm going to look at the solo section for the alto sax. This is primarily for the soloist, not for the rhythm section, because I have everything set up in iRo Pro for it's already transposed. This shows the true key of the song, but in the settings here you can see that it says E flat because this is for an alto. So a couple of things with this. Actually, it's really just two things. The main thing that you want to, let me switch here we go. The main thing, that you want to keep in mind is soul. So what do I mean by soul? It means like you need to have that groove, that funk, that almost like a blues kind of feel to it when you solo. And another thing too is that you want to stick to the melody. The melody in the song is really solid. Lots of good soloists refer to the melody in their solos as well. So I'm going to show you how you can do both of those things in this tune. Oops. I'm using my keyboard today on my computer, so I'm pretty sure you can hear that. And it's easier than me working on my piano. So anyway, as the tune starts out, I want you to understand that this is in the key of D. So this is your 1 in this tune, and that's really important to know. So if this is 1, then what is B? We can go up or down. So if we're going to go up the scale in D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or we can go down, 1, 7, 6. And there's our B. So this is a 6 minor 7. So this one's important to know. And then we have this here. This is kind of funny. This is this. We have this cool little whatever groove. Then we go to this measure 38. So I'm not so worried about this. This is like the flat 7, major 7. It's just something that they did interestingly enough. Okay, so looking at this, there's a relation here between major and minor. So already right there, it sounds like there's a connection. So I want to expand upon that and keep going. So if D is 1, what's F sharp? D is 1, E is 2, F sharp is 3. So this is our 3 minor 7. And how far is F sharp to B? F sharp, 2, 3, 4. So we have a 7. This is actually a dominant 7. The 9 is here to add color. This is what it sounds like, all spelled out. So there's the B, D sharp, F sharp, A. There's the flat 7. There's the 9. So there's the B9. But it really is still a dominant 7, even though we have these extra extensions. So this is a 6, and this 6's function, is a little bit different. This 6 is not minor anymore. We have a minor 7 to a dominant 7, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, or 4 notes between. So this is actually a 2-5, but it's not 2 to 5. We can have these. This is a non-resolving 2-5, and I'll explain why it's non-resolving, because we don't go to E major here. Right here, we have E minor. So if D is 1, then E is 2. So then here is our 2 minor, and that means that we should see a 5. But we see this. Now this is misleading. In the key of D, G is 4. But we have this A. So if I were to play just the G chord in this progression, I'll start from the F sharp. So we have, sorry. It's okay, but it doesn't have the same pull as as this. And the reason why I believe that this is actually a 5 in disguise is because the root tells us that this is actually a 5. And funny enough, A to G is a dominant 7. So this is actually a 5-7 in disguise. So these 4 chords are actually a sequence of 2-5. So this means 2 things. You can play the 1 over these 2, which would be E major. So we have an F7. We'll do it like this. So I could play the key of E major. So I'm playing an F sharp minor 7 to a B7 in my left hand, and my right hand I'm just playing an E major scale. So I could play the 1 over this. That's possible. And here we have an E minor 7 to an A7 in disguise, so it's a 2-5. I can play the 1 here. So all this to say that you can play E here, and you can play D here, and it will sound great. I want to keep going. So we're here on the D7, so we go back to our 1. This is just a transitional chord to add some funky flavor. And a cool thing about this chord is if I was to play it correctly and not make any mistakes, it has this, first we have, it's a G sharp, just like an A flat. So I have the 3rd and the 7. We have this sharp 5, which is actually the 2 in our D. Then if I hold that note, we get this really pretty chord here for the G major 7. So it's not as important as you think it is. It is because it adds some flavor, color. But it's not as important. So this is moving, and then we have our 4, we have our flat 7, major 7, then we have another 2-5 here. Oh, not a 2-5, sorry. It's a minor 7 to a minor 7. Okay, so this is a lot. This is a lot to think of. So what can you do with this in mind? You could focus on your 1s. So let me get my blue. So you could play D here, and it would sound great. And you would play C here, and it would sound fine. And then when you get here, you're going to want to play E, and then you're going to want to play A, and it's a lot of stuff to think of. As you grow in your soloing abilities, please do try to find and identify the 3 and the 7. The 3 and the 7 are going to give you some sweet notes. In this case, the 3 is F sharp. Sorry, this takes a long time because I'm using my cursor. And it's C sharp up here. These notes are going to give you really great transition notes. For instance, this C sharp in the D major 7, the C sharp is a half step above the D here, which is the flat 3 of the B minor 7. It's a really nice transition. This is something that you can figure out, finding the 3 and the 7 and identifying it with notes and with numbers. And that way, some of these will most likely pop up again in other tunes, so it'll be more comfortable to you the next time you see it. I have another shortcut, and this is something, something that I keep talking about in my other videos. And this is called I'll use this color, amp. The amp scale is basically a major blues scale. The numbers are 1, 2, flat 3, natural 3. Then we have 5, flat 6, natural 6. Then the 1. So I didn't write it like this on purpose. It's just, I didn't have space. I should have wrote it up here. So here's the cool thing. Once you know your home key, which is D, so you can actually play a D amp scale for the entire tune, and it works. and it sounds good. Now, this is obviously the simplest approach, to stick to one scale or one device in your soloing. So, as a starter, if you're just starting out, this is your number one go-to, in my opinion. Your number two go-to would be adding in 3 and 7. And then when you get really comfortable with the tune, then I would say, then you should do the melody. And remember when I talked about that melody and soul? Here is your soul, and your melody comes afterward. So this is what I mean. This is the amp scale. So what does it sound like with the song? Let me just play the melody first. I'm going to play it with the backtrack. So all using D. Best saying out the melody. All right, we'll stop there. So if you couldn't catch it, I'm in the key of D. 1, 2, 3, 5. I'm actually using only 5 notes, and this is the pentatonic scale right here. So what this means is that I'm just using amp scale. Oh, thank you. So that means if I just use the amp scale for these two measures right here, it sounds pretty slick. Let me try that again. I'm doing a little intro. There's that soul. Then melody. So I'm using the melody a little bit, I'm using soul a little bit, I'm not using 3 and 7. Because once you start using the scale, it's going to be like all the notes work for the most part. It sounds good pretty much anywhere. I mean, oh, thank you. Yes, I know. Sounds pretty slick everywhere. So I would really suggest using this amp scale over the entire thing, figuring out what works for you, finding out some cool licks. I love that 6 to flat 3 to 1. It just sounds really cool. But yes, starting out, work the amp scale. Second thing, add 3 and 7, and 3, incorporate elements of the melody, and you're going to have a really solid solo. I hope this helped you. Have a Merry Christmas and happy practicing.